of the ineffable nativity of our Redeemer. 11th title and Contemplation. Now then, my love and my life, it is fitting for us to admire your prodigious birth, in which and through which you came forth into light and into day, in weeping and tears. It is yet another new expedition of love, indeed of all your love, in consequence of all that preceded, after, I say, having honored your sacred nuptial couch for all the time ordained for that. In the reciprocal enjoyment of your divine exchanges of love between your mother, your bride, and you. You come forth as King and Lord from your sacred couch to give joy, indeed all joy, all cheer, and all pleasure to the heavens and to the earth, to angels and to men, given that, by your birth, men are in possession of their Redeemer. The coming and enjoyment of whom the poor human species in our holy fathers and patriarchs had for so long a time cried for and sighed for, that finally you came in the fullness of time. The blessed hour and point in time is right now, when you are born and enter into the world for the salvation of the lost human lineage, a sight so lovely, so prodigious, so enrapturing, and so admirable in every sense, that all creatures rejoice over it and celebrate it as a jubilant feast with all their power, the angels by choirs and concerts in heaven and on earth, and men upon the earth by the annunciation of the news that was announced to them by the angels, from whom they hear harmony and excellent music, as they sing admirably by choirs and concerts this holy and sacred canticle, Glory be to God, in very high places, and peace on earth to men of good will. It is here and under this aspect that it is necessary to lose ourselves and plunge ourselves, more than ever, into the infinite abyss of your infinite love, to see it take its infinite pleasure in the production of its wonderful effects, according to the eternal order of these, whereby glory is always joined to lowliness, as the heavens testify admirably by their angelic jubilations. But since this admirable prodigy is wrought in a stable, or under a doorway, which was scarcely covered to be able to accommodate the lodging of beasts, it is in this desolate place to which, and within which you make your first entrance into the world, which, by your presence and that of your very sacred mother, is turned toward the imperial heavens, to see the pleasure that the angels received there, by the millions and by troops, at the sight of you, their God and their King. Oh, how men have in you a rich subject to confound their pride, seeing you made into poverty itself, though you are God and Lord of everyone, and of 1,000,000 times more people, if there were that many. What will they say, and what will they do at the sight? But, my God, my love, the evil is that they do not look at you and do not worry either about seeing you humiliated, God of infinite glory and majesty, under their feet between these vile animals, as if you had not obliged them in anything at all to love you and serve you, at the sight of your flow spilling over upon them, happily to lose and drown them in it, if they wanted to burn. What is this, my love? What spectacle is this, and how is it possible that the angels rejoice so much in the sight? Ah, the reason for it is, my love and my life, that this fact results in the very high glory of your majesty, as well as that of your Father, and that it is the effect in all the divine person, and in yourself, God made man. One of the highest effects of your infinitely superessential goodness and love of all those of our infinite redemption. For every excellent end must have and always has its beginning very conformed to itself, as a means which is conformably ordained to it, since there is no end of a temporal, quantitative work of some importance which does not have a beginning. Thus it is totally manifest that, to suffer and die as perfect man according to the age and constitution of perfect nature, in the perfectly virile age of men, it was necessary to be born like them and among them. But though it may seem that this is not much to say to you, yet it is something good in view and concept, considering that we see and discover in all this amplitude, so wide and so extended over diverse experiences, that it is necessary that, very voluntarily, you should make a life so painful and laborious and languorous as ours before withdrawing from it, so as to take it up again, in all its contraries, and in a sense totally contrary to your present life, very justly and rightfully. That, I say, is all the penetration anticipation of our simple vision and sight, which causes me infinite astonishment over the entire vivid representation of all that it was necessary for you to do and suffer until death in the detour and under the weight and the burden of my nature. It is an amazing thing and a great cause for wonder that men, to whom this admirable benefit is given and ordained, containing infinite riches and treasure in every sort of benefit, it is, I say, an amazing thing and really quite shocking. O my love and my life, that all the earth, in all the men of the earth who have heard and heard tell of this fact, should not have been, and are not at present, forever enraptured in profound astonishment and admiration. Well then, is it really possible that animals should perform the office of men in the subject and aspect, and that men should have so little gratitude toward their so prodigious Lord and Liberator, that they cannot bring themselves at least to the persuasion of that which they see? I mean those animals at the service of God and subject to Him, adoring Him and serving Him to the extent of their power as best they can? Is it, I say, possible that men should be conquered by such a persuasion to render the service of these same animals? Alas, whom does this whole negotiation touch, and to whom does it belong? Does it not belong to men? And nonetheless men are not worried about that which is not and never has been. O hearts hardened and of a harder nature than bronze and marble, which the effect and the view of such a lovely sight could not and never will be able to cut into. But the very just deploration over this is hardly less great nor less deplorable than to see the hearts of many of your servants to be as if icy and frozen at the sight and the view of so prodigious, so ample, so loving and so consuming a fire as yours. Ah, my love and my life, what is this? What has become of the poor creature, and to what extremity of misery and folly has it not been reduced? The creature sees its sovereign, even though you are objectively and presently, in your personal presence, reduced to nothing, in the misery of his poverty and calamity, to enter into payment of his ransom. And nonetheless this creature is insensitive in its hardness, having much less natural good and natural reason than the brutes that it sees, recognizing you as their God, their creator and their benefactor, rendering to you all the service, honor, and duty possible to them. Ah, my love and my life, since it so happens that reasonable creatures are in worse condition than the beasts are, they deserve to be changed into these animals, if not into something more vile. For it is believable that, being in this nature and form so vile, they could have more naturalness and gratitude toward your majesty and more compassion for its poverty, sorrows, and miseries than they do in the human form and nature that they have, indisposing their understanding and reason with all brutality and carnality. But, speaking of those who seem to be better than the mainstream of men, in the very wide spectrum of their vices, they have their understanding and reason indisposed by the folly of fools, in the life of which they keep themselves happy, finding themselves so well therein and in such a practice, that scarcely ever do they come out of it before the point of death. Now here what I call folly is the life totally dispersed in every sort of vanity, levity, and imperfection, to say nothing of sin, seeking only self, in self, and by all its senses to infinity. And now, behold the terrestrial paradise in the stable. The stable, I say, contains God whom the heavens cannot comprehend. All there is full of joy, of exultation, of divine and celestial delights, to angels, to men, in Mary, in Joseph, who are enraptured in this their possession and sight in the abundance of divine delights, which fill them with sweetness and inconceivable joy. The simple ones too and little shepherds receive directly news of this ineffable birth, by the way and vision of the angel who says these words to them, I announce to you a great joy. It is that the Savior of the world is born in Bethlehem, where you will find him wrapped in swaddling clothes. Oh, what a marvel! No, it is not the rich who enjoy this news or inspirations of this benefit so as to go and be spectators and possessors of this mystery, abyss of infinite mysteries, containing and enclosing all the uncreated good in the created. And thus, the treasure of treasures, the eternal and final pleasure of all the beatitude of all creatures, which, for love of men, those poor criminal vassals, is so very abridged and cut short, that angels and men see it. Men, I say, neither great nor elevated in high dignity for this hour, but the simple and little ones who are humble, and for that reason more disposed to see and receive outside and inside themselves your first coming in flesh, for the eternal and infinite good of men. The fruition and enjoyment of this fills them with sweetness and divine pleasure to infinity, at the minimum so excellently and so highly and in such abstraction that, totally forgetful of themselves, they are without memory of the past. The reason for this lies in your love, O my love and my life, I say, in your love presently flowing in them, to the point of filling them with itself in yourself, in the sweetness and unspeakable inebriation, so that all outside of themselves. It is to be believed that all made actions and gestures with all their members and senses, with entire and full jubilation, which, I say, in their rapture so delightful, manifested their love and excessive joy in the abundance of their inebriation in all their members and senses by gestures and actions that were spontaneous and without restraint. In this way, this little populace, adorned with excellent conduct and simplicity of heart, disposed them, O my love and my life, to be the first to have and receive the infinite enjoyment and prerogative, or rather, as a prerogative above all others, the enjoyment and fruition of your first and blessed coming in flesh unto the world, as happy for us as it was sorrowful and laborious for you and in you. Ah, my love and my life, if it is necessary to see all the exterior, we see you to be the target and the prey of all our evils and all our miseries, in such a way that, the more you are glorious within as man, the more are you sorrowful and laboring in your delicate infant body, which requires, by the necessity of loving poverty, that animals warm it with their breath to keep you from remaining for this hour pierced to death by the violent rigor of the extreme cold, conformable to the season of extreme winter. Thus, and in consideration, I say, of all that surrounds and besieges you actively from without, you are very worthy of the compassion of men as well as angels, and even of unreasonable animals. And I go farther still and say even of insensible creatures. And in all honesty, how is it possible that every created thing should not testify to its very just affliction in so laborious and so sad and so lamentable a spectacle? And as for me, I believe that, if you had not prevented this from happening by your goodness and omnipotence, without a doubt and at the very least, indeed at the very least, they would testify to their sorrow at the sight of you by the demonstration that they would make to everyone, I mean to angels and to men, to want to be reduced to their first nothingness. The reason for this is very deep. But, my love and my life, you want and desire just the opposite, namely that men as well as angels, and indeed all creatures, rejoice in the vision and enjoyment of your first coming, at which you are an infant doing nothing but being born, as much God and infinite in this moment and at this point and forever, in this your mortal garment of mortality, as in all your infinite eternity, the sea remains closed and hidden within its limits. This sea, not being able to be seen in itself, is seen in its effect, which, however, is not distinct from the same sea, and yet very distinct and very much other as an effect flowing from your very same sea, which, being seen and penetrated in its cause, is not less nor of lesser excellence than the sea itself in all its plenitude. But regarding this sight and very rapid contemplation of the most lost and of the most enamored spirits that your majesty has elevated and enraptured by a very singular benefit to the enjoyment and fruition of itself in all its infinite love, within the immensity of which they are totally swallowed up and totally melted and lost, those spirits, I say, enjoy ineffably and to an infinite degree all your paradise in this your coming in our flesh. For if speculation about this in the abundance of your flow is so sweet, how much more so is the contemplation of this same object in all its fullness, of all the mysteries and ineffable secrets that are contained in it and comprised by it, as well as of the same object in itself. It is thus God and His infinitely infinite love, which enraptures us and loses us here, or, to say it better, in yourself whom we contemplate. For if we had such fecund abundance of your infinite flow that we could always pour forth an abundance of words sufficient to express both our raptures and our contemplation upon this, how richly advantaged we would hold ourselves to be. Now, nonetheless, my love, it is still necessary and is very expedient that our vision, enjoyment, and fruition should be something totally alienated and totally other in itself than the expression of it by simple flow of simple words, although a similar flow shows enough that this something is our contemplation and fruition. Nonetheless, there is such a difference between one and the other, as between the sea and its flow, as between the whole and the part, for it is the very high, very simple, very unique, and very unified contemplation, which fixes us eternally in this abyss of prodigious mystery, within the very secret essence and hiddenness of those mysteries, above all the visible flow of them. The flow and sight of them serve as a very enlivening spur to those enamored of lesser flight and activity. In this way, it is all that we have, understand, and know in these eternal sights, which fix us eternally in contemplating them as a single thing and vision in the totality of yourself. No, the coming forth of these mysteries, as by a very abundant overflow, draws diversely all that is outside inside, I mean according to diverse gradations and constitution of spirit, each one according to the measure and proportion of his measure and capacity. But those who are already spirit, lost in the immensity of your deity, remain always fixed and constituted in their state and order above this, as persons fully constituted in the enjoyment and possession of all this infinite good, in all yourself and in their totality, and that by reason of your infinite deity, fully seen and possessed as much as one can possess it in your humanity, which is but one same person and majesty with the divine subject. We see, I say, you and all things that belong to you, burn and catch fire, having become and been made into fire, at least in the manner that I understand it and see it, to the point of entire consummation.